Today what I have for you is another classic cocktail known as the Block and Fall. Now this particular recipe comes from our favorite recipe book, Just Cocktails, but this recipe goes all the way back to the mid-30s with Mr. Boston, which is a famous brand that makes triple sec and different other cordials. Also has recipes going back to 1935 and beyond that. So this is a great recipe for us to get into. Let's get into our drink. Now, the Block and Fall is a drink that is actually going to be served in a rocks glass. Now, ironically enough, despite this being served in a rocks glass, this actually features no whiskey or any other particular ingredients that would actually be seen typically in a rocks glass, I should say, but it's going to be enjoyed nonetheless. Now, one of the interesting things about this cocktail, as opposed to other cocktails that we've done in this show on the past, is that this particular drink is going to be served stirred as opposed to shaken, because we have pretty much only liquor elements in this glass. So first we're going to start off, which is going to be 1/3, let me check my recipe here, yep, 1/3 of Cointreau. Now Cointreau is a French orange liqueur. There are additional elements to this that makes it the ever famous recipe that has made this brand so much money. That's why like a standard orange liqueur is far different from Cointreau, because there are additional ingredients in here, all part of their very particular recipe that makes Cointreau what it is, and it is named particularly in our recipe. Now, like other recipes we've had in this book, sometimes we're given specific amounts, such as a jigger, which is 1.5 fluid ounces, or a wine glass, which is 2 fluid ounces. This one just gives us ratios. So essentially, we can make this drink as big or as small as we want. And here it says for us to give us 1/3, so it's going to be 1 part, essentially, of Cointreau. Now, we don't need this to be an exceptionally large drink, as I'm going to be the only one that's going to be enjoying it. So for this one, we're going to pour in 1 ounce of Cointreau. So I got my jigger out here, and we are going to pour out 1 ounce of Cointreau and pour that on into our shaker. I'm going to put this up here so you guys can all see it. Then we are going to follow that up with 1 part of brandy. Since we have established that 1 part is going to be 1 ounce, we are going to follow that up with 1 ounce of brandy. Now this is Christian Brothers brandy. It's great because it's very affordable and it has tremendous flavor. It's a great balancing act for very particularly sweet drinks, but it doesn't overpower anything. Now mind you, if you want more nuanced or complex brandies, you can always go with different brands, but I think for the purpose of our drink, Christian Brothers will do just fine. So we're going to pour out 1 ounce into our jigger and throw that in there. I keep saying jigger, I think it's just called a jig, but you know, the nomenclature of all of these things kind of distracts me every once in a while. Next, it calls for 1/6, or which is essentially going to be a 1/2 part of Anisette. Now, Anisette is going to be very potent. This is just your standard Haram Walker Anisette, so it's not very expensive. Smells sweet, very powerful on the anise pods that were used in order to flavor this. There are a lot of anise flavored cocktails. You have Sambuca, you have Utso, you have Absinthe, you have a rock, which I have somewhere up here. There are so many different ways that other companies have used anise to flavor their alcohols, but they also typically also use different flavors and herbs in order to make it different from the rest. For here, we just want a standard Anisette, which is why we're using Haram Walker here. That way we don't get any additional flavors that may distract. So we're going to throw in a 1/2 ounce here, since this is going to only be a 1/2 part of our drink. This is going to add a lot of herbaliness. It's going to be interesting how it plays with the Cointreau, considering we have the orange there and also the brandy. But our last ingredient, which also calls for a half part or a sixth in the recipe, is Apple Jack. Now I'm using Laird's Apple Jack. This is a very classic bottle. Laird and Company has been around since the 18th century. It's in Monmouth. I believe this is New Jersey. I've used other Apple Jacks. This one's particularly my favorite, and something I would certainly recommend you guys using. It just has a good, clean flavor, and it still gets you a little bit of that appleiness that you're hoping for. So we're going to put in a ½ ounce here. A little more. There we go. Then we'll pour that on in. And then the last thing that we have to do here is that we're just going to take some ice and we're going to put it into our shaker. Let me get a cup here. There we go. And we're going to stick this in here. Now, mind you, again, we're not going to shake. We are only going to stir because this is an all liquor type of drink. So, gonna stir this up here. We want to make sure that all the flavors kind of come alive, so to speak. That we get everything moving, and that everything starts to really wake up and come together to give us a really good cohesive drink. It smells delicious. That Cointreau really speaks loudest, I think, from the smell. Now, you can serve this on the rocks by just pouring this directly into our rocks glass, but I think here I'm going to serve this neat, so in that case, I'm going to strain out our ice. Since we've chilled it down already, we don't have to worry about temperature, and I feel like this will be a cleaner taste, and we don't dilute any of the additional flavors. But there we have the Block and Fall, and it is quite interesting in color. It's a lot more pale than I originally thought it would be. It reminds me of an American Pilsner like Miller Lite or Budweiser or something like that, but it looks quite enticing nonetheless. So let's give it a taste. And right up front, the anisette comes in. That's probably the biggest flavor. But on the back end, as you continue to let it sit on your tongue, you're getting the orange peel of the Cointreau. It's quite refreshing, actually. I like the bitterness of this drink. Everything kind of comes together relatively cohesively. You could even introduce a brandy. I'm sorry, not a brandy. You could introduce a bourbon or whiskey here if you wanted some additional smokiness, and also maybe to dilute down the anisette a little bit. It's pretty strong, but as we have come to know with some of our classic cocktails, that anise flavored drinks kind of ruled the day. People really like that flavor profile. But it's very good if you like anise. If you don't, I would lower it a little bit here, but very tasty, very interesting. All of the bitters coming together correctly, I think. We're getting an accentuation of the orange peel of the Cointreau. You've got the anisette. You've got the balancing out of the brandy that's kind of underlying everything. And then you've got the Apple Jack providing a subtle fruitiness on the back end. So it's all coming together as one cohesive unit. Very tasty and very refreshing. But there you have it, guys. The Block and Fall. Try this out for yourselves. Let us know what you guys think. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you guys for being part of the Top Shelf community. You guys make all of this worthwhile. We love you guys. We love making these drinks for you guys. And from all of us here, cheers.